What's going on, everyone? Thank you so much for tuning in into this video, as this is going up on YouTube even though we're over here streaming it. So would you look at me, I'm still making Runeterra content. Thank you so much for checking out this video. If you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe, make sure to like up the video and comment. Would appreciate all that support, and you know how the algorithm really loves that stuff, so thank you so much. And I appreciate you being here with me. Today we got some patch notes to talk about, and honestly, I guess today I'm going to be the villain, because I've already noticed through social media that not everyone necessarily agrees with my takes here, but I'm okay with being the villain here. I feel like we're not being hard enough on these patches and just the mediocrity of them, and that's putting it lightly. So I will be the one to kind of keep it real, keep it a stack, keep it 100, because we're not keeping it 100 right now with these patches and just overall the support in the game. Obviously there's other support things that are going on, the lack of real support for the competitive scene with seasonals going away, the lack of real support with just overall the grassroots scene, the lack of consistent kind of interaction with the community, with the way the Twitter's run. I have lots of things that I am not a huge fan of with Legends of Runeterra right now, but primarily it's the game. I will continue to play Legends of Runeterra as long as the game itself is fun to play, and patches ensure that the game stays fun to play. And unfortunately, we've been getting these patches that have a lot of changes, but they're just not giving that high level impact. And even if they do, then the game turns into some other state of, hey, this is stagnant and not really that fun at the moment. Can we get some changes? And then more changes come through, and they don't really address the real problems. So then we gotta wait longer for the real problems to get addressed. And I'm kind of tired of that cycle. Overall, I wanted to discuss with you guys whether or not this patch was an L or was it a dub? Yeah, I guess we'll decide that. Was this patch a flop, or was this patch actually really good and going to change things up in the game? Let's go through it. So we actually got something pretty cool here, patch 3.0 notes, and overall shout out to the dev team. My criticism of Legends of Runeterra has nothing to do with the devs. You'll never actively hear me say that the devs are lazy, the devs don't try hard enough, or any of those things, because none of that's true. I personally think the biggest issue with the dev team is their size. I think they need to get more people working on the team so that they can patch at a rate that actually keeps pace with the game. We've seen time and time again, they always say, well, we weren't able to address this card because we have this patch note ready to go this many months prior. And it's like, that's not a cycle that's going to lead to success for the patches. There's no way a patch can be a full success when it's getting done months prior and then your game changes so much. Like, it's a card game. Card games metas change so rapidly, and it just makes no sense to have this cycle that doesn't keep pace at all with the actual meta. So yeah, my issue with the dev team is all about size. It has nothing to do with the individuals and the effort that they're putting in. I do think that they could use a little bit further feedback from the community when it comes to their patching too. It's a little odd that we get asked like, hey, what do you guys think of these cards, and what do you think, and what needs to be patched? And then we see the patch notes and there's things no one said anything about that end up getting touched. And that's fine as far as buffs, but nerfs, that shouldn't be a thing. We shouldn't be nerfing cards that no one has an issue with. It's just really, really odd, and I've rarely seen that lead to good results. It just leads to a card that was maybe pretty good being less good, but that we want to hit the real polarizing, the real meta shifting cards rather than these random cards, and I continue to see that weirdness. We've been doing the whole it's a step in the right direction since the game started. Yeah, exactly. I'm tired of saying, well, I'm excited for the direction. It's like, no, we said that when we got our first big patch, our last big patch in January. And that big patch came with a bunch of changes to Freljord. And Freljord is still a very poorly played region. There's still so many cards in Freljord not getting paid. And it's really just getting uplifted by Gnar right now. Considering that obviously the new champ we got in Freljord is really bad. So that's a sole Freljord champion. Obviously Gnar is also a Freljord champ, but we can't, do we really even card Gnar Freljord champ? We can't really say that, but nevertheless, Yeah, I will never ever criticize the dev team directly. It's all about their size, which disallows them to make the impact I think they should be making, or at least be as impactful at a rapid enough pace as they should be for a competitive CCG, or for a competitive card game. A little bit of redundancy there, but nevertheless, let's get into this. So we did get a cool new thing with these patch, and I love seeing the Legends of Runeterra team shake things up and just experiment a little. The game's been kind of stagnant and dull, in my opinion, for quite a while, and we've just been in the community trying our best to make things fun and exciting, which eventually gets a little old. You want the company who made your game to do their own thing as far as switching it up and doing things differently, and we finally got that, a little bit of that, with including some new cards within the patch notes. So that was a really cool change of pace, and I especially like the fact that they actually worked alongside two creators in Silverfuse and Mogwai, two veterans, titans of the LOR community, and allowed those two individuals to reveal these cards on their social media. I've been highly critical of the Legends of Runeterra social media account because I think it plays a huge role in the whole Runeterra doesn't properly support their games kind of feeling that I have. I feel like the Twitter constantly just interacts with itself as far as like talking about cards or whatever in the world it's talking about, and it rarely actually interacts with the community. And even when they choose to do, it's like the same individuals over and over. Nevertheless, I do think that revealing some cards with the patch notes is actually really cool, especially empowering your own community by allowing some of your creators to reveal these cards. I want to see a lot more of this. Interact with the community, do things with the community, amplify your community. That's how you keep people satisfied, is making them feel empowered, making them feel like they matter, making them feel like the time and effort they spend supporting your game actually is worthwhile. So I like seeing stuff like this. So nevertheless, let's talk about these two cards. So we got, or these new cards. So we got Desert Duel, and this is probably the most viable of them all, with none of them really being that kind of groundbreaking. But Desert Duel is going to give an enemy -2 this round, an ally and that enemy strike each other. So this is pretty cool. We even get a quick little video here that I guess I'll play with no sound for Desert Duel. Just, I'm not sure if this is copyright or something weird, so we just come play with no sound. But we get a LeBlanc using the Desert Duel on a Poppy, so that's going to allow LeBlanc to take that out, because you also give them -2. So Poppy had no attack when she was striking, so pretty cool. But Poppy's kind of a dead card, so they the nerf to Poppy to make her only have 2 attack has really made it to where all the other Bandle City cards have been able to overshadow her, and she's not really that usable in her current state. So it was kind of funny that they generally choose cards that are in like bad states or just not that used cards to really showcase how good these new cards are, which is a little funny, but nevertheless, that card definitely at least seems somewhat viable. And you like seeing like an actual usable strike effect. I've kind of felt like Strike doesn't have enough good cards in the game as far as like certain regions. Obviously Demacia got good strike cards, but we need more regions to have some good strikes. Like Nox's strike cards are so laughably bad, so it's cool to see Strike getting some love. Furthermore, we get the Celestial Wonder card. So this is going to be a card that at fast speed is able to stun 2 enemies, and it's going to Targon. Alongside something we'll get into, some Targon buffs. So I'm not actually sure how I feel about this card at face value, even though I love stun, huge Leona fan, I even like Yasuo, but I'm a little concerned about this card, even though it's 5 mana, just a tad bit concerned. Targon does have the ability to discount cards, so this can go to 4 mana, and then it's really doing some good work at a cheaper mana cost. And overall, like double stun in Targon, that's really just trying to stall until it could get its like big Celestial on the field, could be very, very impactful. And we already know the other stun cards and other tools Targon already has through its Celestial pool, so this one was a little interesting. And yeah, we get some Yasuo. We get the perfect scenario to show this off, using that stun on the Ahri and the Flame Chompers, and that's going to take out both of those two. So a great scenario to get this card off and showing off some Yasuo support. But we'll have to see. There's not a lot of consistent, reliable stun in Targon aside from that, so we'll have to see if that ends up showing any real prowess as far as the meta. And then next we get into Rocket Barrage, which is going to be in PNZ, and that's going to be deal 3 to an enemy and then 1 to all other enemies. And I love this. I love the idea of dealing 1 to all other enemies. I've been very high since the inclusion of Bandle City to give us more of this kind of thing. But 5 mana slow speed is just really, really slow and expensive. So we'll have to see. Once again, another card that we'll just have to see if it ends up having a place. I'm pretty pessimistic about this one. The most pessimistic, I think the stun card and the Shurima card both will actually see play. This one, I'm not sure. And obviously, Ezreal loves that card, so pretty cool. Cool that we got some cards that at least they have strong effects. It's just the mana cost that's going to be interesting, and then the regions that they're played within. It's hard for PNZ to spend that much mana on that. It's hard for Targon to spend 5 mana on double stun, but we'll see. We'll see if those cards can find a place. So anyways, those are the new cards. Overall, I'm hopefully optimistic for these cards, but I'm pretty low on all of them, but kind of the highest on Desert Duel, finding some kind of home within like a Shurima, possibly, sadly, possibly a Shurima Demacia deck is where this will find its best home, just because of the other reliable strike effects in Demacia. So we'll have to see. We do finally get to the actual like patch notes parts, the buffs, the nerfs, and what other changes that may be to come. And all right, so anyways, as mentioned in the new card section, we want to make sure that every region has some tools to deal with the threats they might face. We also wanted to help out a couple of underutilized champions and give some gentle adjustments to some decks that have been leading the metagame for a while. That being said, there are a few cards not being updated yet that we want to provide some extra context on. All right, so Yordles and Arms. We work on these patches several weeks in advance. That's an issue. Immediate red flag. Immediate red flag. We work on these patches weeks in advance. That means that you will never be on par truly with the metagame. They need to figure out a way where they can quickly hotfix cards. These 2 cards should be hotfixes. That's the I refuse to argue. I refuse to hear otherwise. These 2 cards needed to be hotfix. They absolutely needed to be hotfix. That's where the meta is. I don't care if the meta a month ago didn't have Yordles and Arms in it. I don't care if the meta 2 months ago didn't have Yordles and Arms in it. They both did. The card was always felt a bit polarizing to play against. It needed to be addressed. End of story. Anyways, we work on this earlier than usual due to our week out. Yordles and Arms wasn't seeing nearly as much play when these changes were locked, but we're watching it now. The new removal cards being added along with other changes this patch should have an effect on Yordle and Arms efficiency. That seems spelled wrong unless they're spelling it in like some other country's way of spelling it. That seems spelled wrong as well, but we're keeping an eye on it. So they're keeping an eye on Yordles and Arms. We know that means it's not getting touched into the next patch. That's pretty much what that means. Yeah, there's a chance we'll get a hotfix. I doubt it. Honestly doubt it, especially since people are likely going to be avoiding playing Yordles and Arms since it's all they've been seeing. So we'll probably see less Yordles and Arms just naturally due to other cards getting buffed, other cards getting nerfed, and a few cards in the Yordle and Arms package getting nerfed as well that we'll get into in the latter end of this. So yeah, this may end up working out for them just because of the natural way that patches work, but it's not going to work out for the tournament meta. Anyone still trying to win should be bringing a Yordles and Arms deck, or like some competitors, not necessarily you have to bring it, but some competitors should absolutely be on Yordles and Arms. So the tournament meta is just going to be where we probably suffer the most because people aren't just going to be as willing to deviate off of this really strong card that they decided they didn't have enough time to touch. So anyways, so that's Yordles and Arms, and we're gonna give that a reaction. We're gonna give the Yordle and Arms a reaction, and let's see what reaction Yordles and Arms gets. And honestly, I think that's worth a cry. I think that's worth a cry. I want to cry about it. You know, Yordles and Arms nerf is worth a cry. So we're gonna cry about no Yordles and Arms nerf. All right, let's move on to the next one. Bandle Tree. We have changes planned for the Bandle Tree to alleviate the lack of interactivity in its win condition, but the changes are more complex to implement, so we have that targeted for our next balance patch. on April 27th. This is more understandable. I still think, once again, this should be a hot fix. No one wants to play against Bandletree in this upcoming seasonal tournament. It's been uninteractive. People have disliked it every patch. This is a card that's been on people's patch nerfs prior to even this patch going live. People are completely over this card, especially in conjunction with Bandle, with Yordles and Arms. We are seeing Yordle and Arm Bandletree decks. Sounds like the most toxic, most unfun thing to play against, which is why I haven't been playing Legends of Runeterra really. And yet both of them are staying. So not once again disappointing, but absolutely more understandable, considering that a landmark kind of change. It makes sense that would take more time to get sorted, but I still gonna earn a crowd boo. We still gotta boo that. That still earns a boo. So unfortunately, we cry over the Yordles and Arms and we boo the Bandletree. Here, we're going to get a change to Aphelios. Aphelios is changing directly. We're building these moon weapon updates in the champion section since they were very explicitly affect his gameplay. Alright, so we're moving Aphelios moon weapons to 3 mana helped contain him at the time where he was dominating, but there were also adjusted other cards he works well with, and as the game has grown, we think the moon weapons would be mostly safe at their original cost. So alright, moon weapons go to 2, but the gifts from beyond is going to go from 1 to 2. So a huge fan of that. And we could just do this as a whole, and then we get the Crescendum is going to summon a 2-cost follower from your deck if it's Nightfall activated. Well, now it summons a 2-cost follower from your region. So Crescendo presented a balance problem at any reasonable cost because of its ability to consistently retrieve a specific powerful 2-card unit from your deck. While this did offer some interesting deck building challenges, it also limited our ability to make strong 2-cost followers in the future. So yeah. Thankfully, this card got changed, so overall, Aphelios buff and the Crescendum plus overall moon weapon change is definitely going to get... That's going to earn our first cheer. Absolutely deserving of a cheer, so congrats LOR team, you get your first cheer. From there, we get Azir if you summon 13 units. Now, if you summon 13 units or landmarks, Azir's love of units and Shurima's love of landmarks led to some internal strife, especially in Shurima-only strategies. This change should help Azir players feel better about their board, no matter how they're feeling it. So this makes a lot of sense. Azir works well with like landmarks, obviously, especially Emperor's Deus, and he definitely was leveling a bit too slow. I tested this deck out a little bit due to my boy Silverhawk kind of making me a little interested in Azir Aurelia again, and overall this, I don't know, it makes sense to me. I'm not really happy, sad, or upset or anything over this change. I really don't know how far this is going to matter for Azir. Some people think a lot. I kind of think not that much, so we'll kind of see. But I guess overall, Azir's not currently in the best place, so we'll cheer that. So we love to see and like interesting changes that buff champions. We generally just get stat buffs and stat like stat buffs is generally all we get. So it's cool to see something a little different than a stat buff. Here we get a Nard change. So Nard's going to go to a 3-3 instead of a 4-3 at base level, and then as a level champion, he's going to go to a 5-5 instead of a 6-5. But he's keeping not only this Pokestick, obnoxious Pokestick generation. I personally think not enough people have been talking about how annoying Pokestick is. I'd rather Bandle City go back to its old, I forget the name of the stupid card. The card that draws for Bandle City. It's like 6 mana now. What the heck's that card called? There we go, Hidden Pathways. I'd rather go back to Hidden Pathways meta than Pokestick meta. I honestly absolutely despise Pokestick, and I think nerfing it to where like the card, if it doesn't hit the target, it fizzles. I don't think that's enough. That it doesn't draw, I don't think that's enough, because then you have to like kill your own unit to stop your opponent from getting draw. Like, nah, that's not enough of a nerf to Pokestick. I would like to see Pokestick just be more expensive, especially if Nar is going to continue to reduce it. So I'm a huge Pokestick hater, absolutely despise the card, and I thought that Hidden Pathways meta, even at its pre-nerf state, is a lot healthier of a card than Pokestick, especially now with the NAR value of generating it, then discounting it. Just hate it. And then you also got Kontrologist also generating Pokesticks. I just absolutely hate it. So I really wanted something done with Pokestick, but even furthermore, at least wanted Mega Gnar to lose quick attack. There's no reason for this to generate Pokesticks, reduce Pokesticks, then also give vulnerable to a unit while getting overwhelmed and quick attack. That's just doing way more than most champions do. It's just insane they didn't actually get rid of quick attack. So this is absolutely a cry. I want to cry about this. This is a very sad change. So we're crying about that. You may have seen Gnar around Runeterra occasionally recently, and while we're happy to see a newly released champ succeed, there can be too much of a good thing. We want to make a smaller change to tone it back without making him completely unmega. He would still be mega by Pokestick generation, and like, do they play their own game? Do they not know how good this card is? How much this card is powering up so many archetypes? How much Swain loves this card? How much every Freljord deck learns? Do they play their own game? Like, yes, he's Mega Gnar. He still would be Mega Gnar without quick attack. He doesn't need that. So, I don't know, pretty wild to me, but whatever. Next up, we got Pantheon. Pantheon's a card that's been pretty frustrating to play against because you just kind of play, all right, I got to stop the Pantheon level up or kill him as soon as he levels up pretty much in a ton of scenarios if he gets those good keywords. And then if he doesn't, he feels so much less impactful. I kind of just don't like the design of Pantheon. I don't like the random keywords for champion. Kind of makes more sense with Arsenal with the landmark synergy. I kind of love Arsenal's design, but the way that Pantheon works just really, I'm not that fond of it just in general. But I've never been that fond of Faded at all. The amount of time I've played using Faded units is next to none. It's very minimal, so never really been too big of a fan of this keyword in general, and especially not the way it works with Pantheon. Not really sure how you rework him, but this doesn't really work for me. Anyways, we went from a 4-2 to a 3-2 and went from 5-3 to 4-3. Pantheon has been succeeding in a number of strategies, and with his new feline friend around, we felt we needed to pack a little less punch on his own. So yeah, definitely with the new Faded units, he's felt even worse. Just go big and then use those cataclysms to just kind of take over the game if you're running any deck that doesn't have good solid interaction with that. So you need stun, which is why like Wallop and stuff then becomes a justified card in Vandal City because you got to stun this BS strategy. I just hate, yeah, I'm just not a fan of Faded or the way that this champion works at all. I would like to see him deleted and reworked. I don't think he needs to work this way. I don't think Faded was a keyword that is well designed. Personally, I'm just not a fan of Faded at all. But overall, this change does not do enough for me. So that's gonna be a boo from us, unfortunately. Here, we get a very interesting change. Lurkers have been a consistent force for a bit of time now, and while they aren't completely dominant, we think that taking a few teeth off the shark could let other decks shine more. You can see Xerath's side Dunebreakers change further along in the patch notes as another example. I actually despise this change. I absolutely hate this. I'm just doing it now. We're crying. We're crying. This is a huge cry for me. I hate this change. Pike is a cool champion. Death from Below is a terribly designed card. He can do what he does without needing this terribly designed card to be a part of his package. Honestly, when Pike actually does the Pike thing where he kills an enemy and then strikes the weakest enemy, when he does that without Depths from Below, it's so cool, it's so well earned, and it's awesome. He can be reworked to just not have Death from Below. I think changing Pike himself just makes him feel so underwhelming aside from then when he gets Death from Below. So all they did was make Pike more reliant on the worst part of Pike, which is Death from Below. So I really dislike this change. I don't know who thought this was a good idea. I would love to hear further justification, and this is where I still go back into that same previous thinking of these patch notes are cool when we get a lot of cards in them, but when you make changes and you don't tell us why, because this doesn't really say anything, it just says lurkers are a consistent force, so we're nerfing it. Okay, what does this do to address lurk? What does this do? How does this make lurk like more manageable? All this does is make Pike more reliant on Depths from Below and a little bit more reliant on you getting one extra lurk so that you wipe their whole board when you use Depth from Below. I don't like this change at all. This is just so weird, and I didn't see any, like, one person who was saying this is the rework that they wanted to see for Pike. Just really odd change in my personal opinion. That's the way you're supposed to use him anyway. Death from below is how you're supposed to play Pike. Yeah, and I hate that. I hate death from below. It is not your opponent predicting into Pike and then getting depth from below and then playing him. Well, not only does that lack interaction, it also just does not, it's not fun to play against at all. And I think there is a balance you should always try to have between cards also being fun to play against. And there's nothing fun because it feels like you just really weren't able to do anything when your opponent just predicts into Pike and then uses death from below. It's the worst part of him. I hate it, and I hate that now he's just more reliant on that. It doesn't make any sense to me, but I definitely agree with you. It's definitely the way he's supposed to be played, which is sad. It also is an indictment also on the overall meta that Lurk feels so reliant on death from below. It shouldn't be relying on that. It should be able to go wide with its scaling units and win through going wide with those and then pushing through with the overwhelm units. That should be the way Lurk can reliably win, but the fact that it has to rely on death from below just shows the state that the meta overall is in, which is not good. So yeah, Mecha have needed some kind of support. The only one that's really been consistently usable, in my opinion, has been the Dune Hopper mech, and even then, what deck consistently gets this card out in a decent time frame and makes it work? So really cool to see Mecha support. So let's just read this off. While Rumble has been having some success on his own, his Mecha friends have spent most of their time on the scrap heap. We're giving several of the weaker mechs a tune-up and making sure Rumble plays more nicely with his Mecha pals. So really, really cool. I'm such a huge fan of this. Little Dipper still sucks. Stats don't matter. The card's just too expensive. And the synergy with Silent just doesn't matter because you're never going to pull that off. So just a terrible card. Dune Hopper mech getting even better stats was already good. Now even slightly better. I don't really think significantly though by any means. Trump Decker, okay card. Now it's like better, but I still don't want to call this card good. It's also just really expensive. Salty Spinner gets even a further hit, so it becomes better. 3/3 for the Foray Home Crasher is really good, since it was like trading way too easy. And to get off 2 attacks with this is really awesome. So that's pretty impactful for it. They probably should have went further and even buffed another one of them, but nevertheless, not bad at all. Here we're getting a Victor buff, so I don't even have to look at it to know that that's a cheer. Victor is one of the, in my opinion, one of the better designed cards in the game. And even though he's like all in, and I'm not huge on all in with all the different cards that are able to stop one unit, especially mini morph, but we're not seeing a ton of mini morph right now. So this is actually the card I'm most excited to experiment with now. That he has been buffed, and finally those hex core upgrades cost 0. This is needed to happen so long ago, and this is kind of my other issue with patch notes, is that Victor's hex cores costing 0 should have happened like 8 months ago. Like, how is this happening now? Nevertheless, it's finally happening. I'll take it. Victor's machine evolution already acts a lot of players between creating cards, playing a slow speed spell, and still managing to protect your machine overlord by taking the mana cost off of the hex core upgrade. We hope Victor can focus on his self-improvement without committing resources to the cause every turn. Thank you. Should have been done forever ago, but we'll take it. Here we have another change I just don't agree with. Why Zersai Dunebreaker? We want the Pike players to have to rely on their followers and their overwhelm units to finish games. That's what we want them to do. Why would we make this card worse? Why? This isn't a polarizing card. This isn't an overpowered card. It costs 6. It costs 6. That is a big boo. I'm not crying because in the large scale of things, it makes Lurk less playable, which I'm a fan of. Screw Lurk. I hate Death from Below, but man, that is a very scratch your head change. This is what I would want Pike players to be relying on. I don't want them relying on Death from Below. I want them relying on their overwhelm units to win games. So I really dislike that. Mr. Causalyzer goes to a 2/2. They're going to get a cheer from me because at least it is addressing a problematic card, and it is a nerf to said problematic card, so it does earn a cheer, but it's with a little bit of a grimace in it. There's a little bit of grimace in that cheer, and that's just because 2/2 really isn't significant enough for a card that does what this card does. it's just really strong, and making it a 2-2 doesn't really change that much. Even as a 3-2, it was always trading with 2 health units, so it losing attack. What does it lose in attack actually do? It really doesn't do that much other than make it like not a fearsome blocker anymore, which I guess can matter in certain scenarios, but not enough to make this change really that impactful. But anyways, much like Lurkers, Darkness has been a deck holding its own at the top of meta for a while without ever really taking over. One, to reduce the ability to trade off with aggressive minions early while also progressing their late game evil plans. And yeah, I don't know. If it matters for Bandle City decks, that doesn't address anything I do, so I don't really care. This change, I'm seeing Vanguard Surgeon get touched instead of all the other more problematic Demacia followers, is an immediate cry for me. I'm completely sick of Demacia as a region, just because of the way that, I don't know, any new Demacia cards, any new cool Demacia stuff just goes to its most problematic decks and amplifies those strategies and makes them feel worse. And I don't know, you got to address the actual problematic cards, which are actually Shin Protector, which are actually Rally, which are actually like, I don't know, the barrier cards, like all the challengers. Like, this is one of the least problematic cards in Demacia. And yes, is it a really solid card as a 3-4 and giving you a 4 Demacia? Absolutely, it's really good. But as long as it still does that, it's still a really good card. Making it a 3-3 does not really change anything for scouts. It doesn't change anything for the decks that use this damn card. It doesn't really change anything. Yeah, it won't trade as much. Okay, it doesn't really matter. If they still get a solid 3-mana unit and get a 4 Demacia, it's going to be strong. So I really dislike this change because it just, like, I don't know, you also want elites to be good. Like, when are we going to allow elites to be an actual thing? But you nerf an elite card without addressing any of the actual cards that are strong, that this card is strong with at this particular moment, which is scouts. They even say it was too good of a deal for scouts decks. Well, it's still too good of a deal for scouts decks, and you're going to see that real quickly. But whatever, man. Anyways, we get to the 2 of the most anticipated cards to get changed in these patch notes, and that's going to be Kontrologist and Loping Telescope. And Kontrologist is going to be changed to a 2-1 instead of a 2-2, and then Loping Telescope is going to be increased to 3 mana instead of being 2 mana. And I have to say, the Loping Telescope change for me is going to get a little bit of a cheer. It's going to get a little bit of a cheer, but at the same time, it's going to get a little bit of a boo as well. And then that boo also can just be used for Kontrologist as well. Kontrologist change, no. You either make it to where it doesn't give the 3-mana spells. Like, it either needs to be changed. You have to change something with his effect, or you got to make him a literal bad unit, because the value he gives you is too strong. If I get a Pokestick off Kontrologist, that literally gives me value while playing a unit. That is such a big deal, and that always has been in Runeterra, but for some reason we decided that that's not such a big deal. Like, he needs to be a tempo loss as a unit to make up for the tempo gain that is manifesting a card out of 3 choices that you get to choose. If it was random, or excuse me, if it was random, absolutely he can stay a 2-1. If it was random. It's not random. You get to choose out of 3 choices, and in a lot of regions, you're getting good cards there. Demacia, you're getting good cards there. Noxus, you're getting really good cards. Bandle City, you're getting good cards there. So, I don't know. He needs to be a tempo loss. So, in my opinion, you either make him a 1-1, or you just change his effect. So, I'm not a fan of the Kontrologist change at all. And then as far as Loping Telescope, I actually really like making the card more expensive, so that then the mana just gets really awkward for Bandle City. So definitely it earned its little bit of a cheer, but my frustration is the fact that at the end of the day, I just don't want the Bandle City player to play a Field Rush. I don't want the Bandle City player to play a Ruination. I don't want them just having access to that stuff at all. So I would have liked something changed with the Epic Pool. Nothing feels worse than, like, I literally, the one game I recently played of Legends of Runeterra, it wasn't even that recent because I tweeted it out, and I think that was like a week and a half ago, maybe a little shorter than that, but I played against a Swain Nar player, and they played a Field Rush right as they're running out of momentum, and that's still a thing with this Loping Telescope, and I just want that deleted. I don't want to play that game where my opponent gets a Field Rush, and not only do I not know, but they also just have it when they shouldn't have that card. The deck is not meant, Noxus Bandle City is not meant to have that card. So what's the point? What's the point of that? It's not fun to play against. Yeah, it could be a funny moment on a stream, but if it's happening to you, you're not going to think it's funny. So anyways, there's that are doing cool things. Honestly, too many followers step on the feet of champions. I'm okay with followers slightly, especially for a deck that's supposed to be like so synergistic with itself in Lurk. I'm very okay with Lurk having to rely more on its champions. Same thing about like on its followers. Same thing with the deck like Deep. I love the fact that Deep like relies heavily on the strengths of some of its followers. The elusive Deep unit is really good for allowing Deep to finish games, and then so is the one that obliterates a card. I'm forgetting card names because I just haven't been playing the game a lot, but the Devourer, I think it's something like that. That's also a really impactful card for Deep. I think decks that are like synergistic should actually rely on their followers. So Pike should be less reliant on just being lurked and should have to rely on his followers to win games. And I've been huge on this card getting a buff for a while now. I don't like what they did though. I liked either a mana decrease or a change in its speed. I don't think it needs to deal 5 damage. I think there's very few cards that you're going to be hitting with this where the 4 damage to 5 damage dealt is actually going to matter. Yeah, I just think there's few cards where that's going to matter. You actually just want this to be cheaper so you can use it sooner, or that you can just commit less mana when you do use it. So I really don't like the execution of this change, even though it was a card that I've wanted to see buffed for a while, because it's kind of cool. And Targon's kind of needed an ability to remove units for a while, but 5 to 4 damage is really odd. There's very few cards that are in the meta that don't die at 4 but are gonna die at 5. Just I don't know. I don't understand this one at all. It's not terrible, but it's not impactful enough to get a cheer. So this one's gonna be a laugh and a boo. But yeah, Target is meant to be good at handling single threats slowly, regardless of size. Battlestar was certainly nailing the slowly part, but was falling to short against larger targets. It's still not gonna, like, what large unit has 5 health is gonna die to that? I don't know. Really odd. And even if it does have 5 health, they all have like sharp side backup, like, or something. Oh no, really odd. And I get they want to say like the slow speed's supposed to be thematic with Targon, but I don't know, then make it 2 mana and make it slow. Like, I don't know, just weird. Anyways, here is the best change of this entire thing. This is an absolute cheer for me, and the reason this is going to be a cheer is because not only is Quicksand an impactful card that needs to be better for Shurima to have a little bit more defensive viability, to be able to do a little bit more defensively. It's actually just very, it's not only unexpected, but it's like a kind of a really going off the road, going off what you would expect as far as changes. And I want more of that. I'm tired of just mana increase, mana decrease changes, or like damage increase. I love changes that just really change the full-on design of a card. We did see Alex even allude to the fact that this was a little bit experimental, but they like what they saw and they're going to try to do a little bit more of this. So this is where the directional people like, oh, the direction Riot's going is looking good. This is where I'm on the same page with them with this card specifically. I want to see more changes like this that are just complete changes to the way cards work. So anyways, the way that they did it is give an enemy -4, -0, disable its keywords. The same thing that Quicksand does, but now you can also choose to do it to 2 enemies, and those 2 enemies will just get -2 and disable their keywords this round. That's really, really impactful and awesome for Shurima. You love to see that kind of stuff. So yeah, Quicksand was potentially a potent answer to enemies with strong keywords, but its single target focus often left it inefficient against the kinds of decks it was meant to address. Now it's much more flexible tool, can be a strong answer to a single built up enemy or multiple single little ones. Yes, single sneaky little ones is definitely addressing Bandle City. So it's cool that they're also like trying to add like answers to Bandle City. Yes, are they maybe still not good enough? Probably. This is probably still not good enough. That PNZ card is probably still not good enough. Bandle City will probably still be amazing. No, I shouldn't even say probably. It's going to still be amazing, but at least they're trying. At least they're trying. I'll give them a little credit there. Here we get She Who Wonders, and this is going to be reverting it back to obliterate all units, not just followers, all units with 4 or less power in play and in hand. I'm not going to give this a cheer, a crowd boo or a cry. I just don't really see this being like that big of a deal. Maybe for you Targon's Peak enjoyers out there, you guys will get some fun out of this card. But I don't see this being a big deal in any regard. So we're leaving that one alone. Doesn't get a reaction other than I don't know. Cool. I guess it's cool. But here we get Sheriff Luron. This is gonna get a cheer for me. I've really been high on why do I Bilgewater? There we go. I wanted to call this region anything but Bilgewater right now. But anyways, I've been high on Bilgewater, getting some buffs for the cards that aren't just like the staple Bilgewater cards. There's so many unusable cards in Bilgewater, or cards that just are slightly outside the meta on the outside looking in right now. So I really like that they're trying to address one of the cards that actually does have a pretty cool effect. Granting all enemies vulnerable is pretty cool. And it's supposed to work with some of the other vulnerable synergy that's in within Bilgewater. All that stuff will need to get buffed though to be viable. So while this is cool, it's not going to do that much. But I do like seeing Bilgewater kind of followers and just cards that are not currently within the meta get a little bit of love. So yeah, the Sheriff has a strong effect when she enters play, but was often unable to lay down the law effectively on her own. With a few extra stats, we think she'll be a more efficient answer for Bilgewater decks looking to answer large units. No, she really won't really see play. There's still no Bilgewater deck that can really pay 6 mana for this card and still do anything else in one. So this isn't going to see play. But it still gets a cheer from me because we're addressing Bilgewater unplayable cards, so you like to see it. Here, this is definitely a cheer. We're addressing 2 of the most like just staple cards that have been at the top of play rates for forever. So whether or not I agree with the execution is irrelevant right now while we're cheering, just because we like seeing these cards get nerfed, no matter how bad the nerfs are. Nevertheless, these are actually good. We're changing Sharp Sight from granting 2/2 to granting only just +2 +1 +2. So that's good for sure. There was no reason for the crazy amount of buffing. Like 2/2 was just way too strong. And then here we're getting the +2/03 +2 +3 change for Twin Discipline, no longer choosing between the +3 to attack or the +3 to defense, just the +3 to defense, and not only +2 to attack. I like to see this, but this is kind of a direct enough to Ari, who's already not really seeing play. Ari really finishes games with the +3 from Twin Disciplines. And furthermore, I actually think the health buff is more problematic than the attack buff in my experiences playing against Ionia decks. Is you want to remove the unit, but then Twin Disciplines gives them +3, and then they're never removable. So I think this was done incorrectly. I would rather them still be able to get +3 and attack to a unit and not be able to get +3 to defense. Because yeah, you give the +3 to defense side of the Dragon, Ari, these other cards, and then you just never remove them. This is a good defensive card. It wasn't actually being used as that strong of a defensive card. So I really don't understand this choice as far as nerfing Twin Disciplines. Really odd. Nevertheless, they're trying. These are cards they need to try with. So I'll take it, but I'm not that pleased with this Twin Disciplines change at all. But anyways, yeah, as we're looking, enable more interaction for various regions, we realize there are 2 premier combat tricks were a big part of what made it feel so hard to answer opposing threats. While we like that both Disciplines and Sharp Sight are both great defensive answers to removal, the fact that they were also excellent on offense meant that decks could include them without losing any aggression. This change should push players to have a harder choice between protecting their units and including tools that end the game on the spot. Looked at the number of options to keep Twin Disciplines symmetric, but making them fraternal Twin Disciplines were ultimately that felt the most fair. Yeah, no, I definitely disagree. This could have been executed better as far as Twin Disciplines, which Sharp Sight seems pretty good. We get a King Jarvan buff. Don't really see this being super impactful. Just because Jarvan's not like crazily in the meta right now. There are some decks trying to use him, but Jarvan's not super meta. And King Jarvan's just super expensive. I would have rather them just make him 6 mana rather than 7 mana than trying to buff his stats. I don't think he needed a stat increase. This is one of those other just like head scratchers. Like, can we please just like do changes that actually change things? Really weird to see this card get changed, and just not a fan of it. Not even gonna read that one. I can play Ramp again. Rose is still a bad card. Yeah, she is definitely still a bad card. Raptor's the only streamer that reads up. LOL. All right, anyways, let's keep it moving. So Tatted Banter effect no longer consumed by units with Challenger, so now there's synergy with Coin and Valor, whatever. Don't really care about that. I don't play Scouts. Here we get this Shin Protector card that's seen negative play since it was revealed. When I'm summoned, draw Shin and have with barrier, draw a Shin, allies with barrier have double attack. Okay, I was struggling to read that. All right, give an ally barrier, and draw Shin, allies with barrier have double attack. So they changed it slightly. This doesn't make this card usable. Shin decks run their synergy too tight. They need like all these synergistic pieces to make it work. There's no way to fit this in. So another change that just is absolutely meaningless. The Shin decks can't fit that in. But maybe casual players will have fun with this. But for actual competitive players, this is meaningless. Sigil and Malice. Now it doesn't cost 4. Who knows why this card ever costed 4? While we don't want Sigil and Malice to become a premier damage spell without reputation, it can afford to be a little less embarrassing. Note, this change only affects the base cost. The cost after reputation is still 1. So yeah, this, I don't know, for me, this is another pretty unimpactful one. This card was seeing no play, and even decreasing it to 3, especially since you would only really play this after the reputation loss, just really doesn't do anything. So another meaningless change. So that's going to give us pretty much like 3 meaningless changes in a row. So 3 meaningless changes in a row is going to earn a boo. So we get a boo for the 3 meaningless changes in a row. Here we get another kind of buff to like stuff that Victor likes. So that's once again an immediate cheer for me. We need to keep supporting our archetypes that just aren't really working. And here, now we can get +1/+1 on the created card that comes from calculated creation. So you'd love to see that. Needed to happen for sure. And now that makes Arm Gearhead usable off of this. Arm Gearhead at 1 health just was not usable. So now you can actually maybe grab an Arm Gearhead. And he doesn't just die to Pokestick. Next up, we got the Flash Bombs, and this is a change I really like seeing. I do think they could have went even further here and also buffed the Justice Rider, because that card is laughably bad. But either way, Flash Bombs now, instead of top 10 cards, they're going to go top 8. So that's really awesome to see. So that is a cheer for me, but they definitely could have went further. Justice Rider is a laughably bad card, and it's a huge part of why Flash Bombs can't really go a little bit more all in with Flash Bombs, because Justice Rider's like your mid game, but it's terrible. Next up, we got Careful Preparations going to two costs, so that's pretty cool. It doesn't really earn, I don't know, I guess I'll cheer. That's cool. And Predict's always going to be decently viable, because being able to like choose what you get next matters a lot. This Cam for the Doubt change is a huge cheer for me. This is a very cool thematic follower. We need more really cool followers like this, and the fact that it's getting a little bit more viable by getting some additional stats, and then also now it's only 4+ rounds. You've targeted allies, and then it gets all those spell shot overwhelm challenger. That's a huge deal. So we can actually see this really well designed card actually get some play. So huge fan of this, and it's in target. It's not in like one of the terrible annoying regions right now, Demacia, Bandle City. So huge fan of it. We're getting some changes to the eye to where we can actually see some additional things going on here with the eye, which is really, really cool. I'm a huge fan of this, so this is definitely going to be another cheer for me. So yeah, we see the -2 just hover over right now. That's awesome. And then as you place your blocks, now that goes, this is so cool. Like, this is amazing. This is amazing. So I'm huge on this. This earns a second cheer with how cool this is. I'm a huge fan of that. So, and yeah, see, now you get to see the +1. Like, oh man, that is huge. That is huge. So huge fan of that. Love it, love it, love it. This Shin looks amazing. We'll even quickly watch through the video of this new Shin coming through. Huge fan of it. That's a really, really cool Shin. This even looks really cool. What is this? Is this like Teemo? Is that Teemo? He looks crazy. But yeah, and this board looks amazing. That's Pantheon, screw him. Gallia looks cool. Swain always looks cool. When does Swain not look cool? Board looks amazing. So cheers for all the cosmetics. Cosmetics look amazing. Guardian looks pretty cool, even though it's just another Poro clone. Still looks cool. Another shark clone looks cool. Another bird clone looks cool. The back could have been a little better. Not a huge fan of the card back. And bundle looks pretty kind of cool. Looks kind of cool. Oh, that's Kinnan. That's a really cool Kinnan. I like it. He's dripped up. But yeah, that's some cool stuff. So bundle stuff, cool. And the change to the eyes, absolutely cool. But overall, was this patch a flop overall? And yeah, I'm sorry, you guys. This patch gets like a D at best for me. When you don't address, here, let's go back over here. Let's go over here. When you don't address, let's see, what cards do I want to say needed to be addressed? I didn't like their Kontrologist change really too much. I'm not fully in love with the Loping Telescope change. Pokestick is still going to be all over the meta, and its biggest offender in Nars got the littlest slap on the wrist I've ever seen. Quick Quill could probably use something changed about it. I don't know. Faded. This attach unit's still wild. I'm not a huge fan of attach in general. Maybe Quick Quill's fine. I just really don't like attach. I don't know. I would also have liked I would have liked Aloof Travelers to go back to 3 mana and just make it where he doesn't discard champions. He feels a little, I don't know, I guess he's fine at 4, but I just really hate this card discarding champions. I'm such a big, I really hate that. I don't think a follower for 4 mana should get rid of your champions. For a lot of decks, that's your win con. I just don't think it should happen. And it's not like I know this is coming. Opponent can just like, it's not like the card gets revealed or anything. So I really dislike this. I feel like we could have fixed Yordle, lecturing Yordle to fix his stats so that then he can generate Poison Dart again. He's seen like no play just because he's not generating enough value anymore, even with the big stats. We know big stats don't matter. It's all about value, and the Poison Dart value was really good. So I would like for him to get that back and just fix his stats alongside them. I don't think there's like a great place for some of these attach cards to exist. I'll never like attach. It just won't ever be something I like. Teeny Dactyl's a card I thought could have been touched up just a tad bit. Feels a little overpowered to me personally. So yeah, I don't know. They didn't address enough cards, and then obviously we didn't get the Bando Tree change. We didn't get the Yordle and Arms change. So yeah, I'm not in love with it. I'm not in love with all. Then you can go over to Demacia. And we didn't touch Bright Still at all. This card just continues to be able to be a menace. We didn't touch Broadwing. And I don't even know. Cataclysm almost feels like it's in a bad spot right now, just with the cards that are being kind of pushed with it. So I'm not in love with maybe even Shield of Duran, just specifically with Broadwing though. But yeah, I'm not in love with some of these cards. And then obviously the biggest thing is we didn't get any changes to Rally, Relentless Pursuit, and Golden Aegis get to still just be menaces in the meta. And those cards just, they force so many decks to all feel the same. And I'm tired of Rally decks all just feeling the same. So I'm disappointed in that as well. But that's kind of where it kind of ends. That's kind of like those cards just needed to be addressed. And then we obviously could have got some further buffs. 4 more Freljord cards, 4 more P&Z cards, 4 more Bilgewater cards. We could have got further buffs for these cards, but hey, it just kind of is what it is. But obviously we got these weird Riot-like apologists who are always apologizing and always want to act like every patch is amazing. People act so weird about people being critical about patches. I just don't get it. Don't be those people. Don't be the weird person who doesn't enter any tournaments, who doesn't support the tournament scene, doesn't host tournaments, doesn't do anything as far as competitive play, doesn't grind ladder, doesn't do anything as far as competitive play at all. But then you're over here like, no, this patch is good because I know, because I was in silver all meta, and this is what I know from silver. Like, don't be that guy. that is so played out and so annoying, and you make yourself just look foolish. I don't know. People do it all the time though. And there's even competitive players who love being apologists for Riot too. It's okay to say the patch needed to be better. There's nothing wrong with saying, hey, we could have gotten more from this, and hey, Riot could be doing more, and hey, we could have got more buffs. Like I don't know, it's okay to say that. No one's getting hurt by you saying that. No one's getting hurt. No one's personally attacking any devs. No one's saying the devs are lazy. No one's saying they need to work harder. We're just saying we'd like to see more. And if that means expanding the team, if that means reallocating resources, then that by all means should be done. And it's okay to be critical of things you love. I love Legends of Runeterra. I still think it's one of the best games I've ever played, but patches have an enormous effect on how fun the game stays, meta in and meta out. And if patches are going to continue to be this slow and come with changes that are like 2 weeks off course, that are 2 weeks behind the 8 ball, then we're going to continue to be in this place where the patches aren't going to really be that effective. And people who grind this game every day on Twitch have a right to be upset. People who play in tournaments and support those tournaments and are going to sponsors and trying to convince them to support this game have a right to be upset. Don't be a weirdo about people being upset. Content creators being upset is validated. If Mogwai wants to be upset, he plays this game 5 times as much as you. That's okay. Don't be a weirdo about him being upset. He has every right to be upset. If he still uploads a video too, then everything's good in the world. He's upset, but he's still playing the world. So shut up with people being upset. Let them be upset. It's okay to be upset about things you're passionate about. That's how the world works. And trying to be a weird apologist about everything is never going to make things change. You don't change the status quo by being like, all right, well, this is all great and that's great, so I'm okay. Like, that doesn't change the status quo. Being actually upset changes things. When Azir Aurelia was dominating the meta, the devs refused to do anything. They kept saying that they liked the play patterns, and the whole community uproared, and then we actually got changes. Like, let's allow people to be upset. This weirdo Riot apologist thing is so played out. Stop doing that. Stop doing that. That's my hot take. That's my rant. Stop being a weirdo about apologizing for Riot not properly patching and supporting their games. Stop doing that. It is so weird. And it almost always comes directly from people who aren't competitive players, who don't do anything competitively, who don't create content on a daily basis. It almost always comes from those people. And you're the last person who should be speaking. If you don't create content every day, you don't play in tournaments, you don't grind this game, you're the last person who should be speaking. It's just so weird. But yeah, anyways, ran over. That's where I'll leave the patch. Patch was overall a flop for me, but I don't know. At least there were some good changes, and at least they are deviating from doing everything the exact same. But overall, patch is a flop. So we boo the patch flops, unfortunately. But that doesn't mean the game's terrible. It doesn't mean everyone should stop playing it or anything like that. It just means that we are going to continue to expect better from this game. And it definitely means that I feel validated in my content break from Legends of Runeterra. I'm still going to post this video on the channel, so expect this video to go up on the channel because I'm not done entirely creating content on Runeterra. I'm just not only going to create content for it, because screw that. Imagine trying to grind this meta after it becomes stale in a week and a half. So I'm just not, yeah, no more deck videos. Screw all that. I'll react to patch notes, and I'll definitely react to expansions and give my 2 cents, but my content for Runeterra will definitely be solely on Twitch because, yeah, these patch notes, stuff like this completely validates it. Runeterra is going to be interesting moving forward. We shall see how it goes. Like I said, I'm going to get up this video, though, of us discussing the patch notes. Hope you guys vibe with it. Well, you guys were here, so hopefully other people vibe with it. And, yeah, you guys have a good rest of your day. Peace!